Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel Code for Tech Solutions. Today in this video we are going to create a full stack application using Angular 18 standalone and Node.js as a backend application, and we are going to use a file system in which we are going to create one JSON file which will hold the order related data, and on that data we are going to perform the CRUD operations which we are going to implement in Node.js backend application. So these are some prerequisites which we are going to use to build this application. For front-end and back-end development, we are going to use VS Code, and these are some versions which we are going to use on the front-end side. Angular version we are going to use, it's 18.2.3, NPM 10.5.0, Bootstrap version 5.3.3, and for the back-end development we are going to use Node, and this is the version. And we are going to use file system library which we are going to install on the Node.js backend application side, in which we are going to create one JSON file which will store the order related data. So this is about the backend application, and there is a Postman tool which we are going to use to test our APIs which we are going to write using the Node.js application. So this is about all the prerequisites which we are going to use to build this application. This is an architecture which we are going to build for basically this is for the order related application. So we are going to create order web front-end application in which we are going to use Angular version 18, and it's a standalone application. And we are going to use the Bootstrap latest version to create tables, and we can make use of the CSS classes in that. And again, like we are going to use HTTP client provider to call the HTTP methods to perform the CRUD operations like HTTP get, post, put, and delete methods. We are going to call on this provider. Next thing, like our order web application will connect with the order service backend application which we are going to create using Node.js, and here we are going to install the files system file system library so that we can create one JSON and perform the CRUD operations on this JSON. So our order service will interact with the file system, which is nothing but like which will allow us to create one JSON file in which we are going to store the order related data. So this is about the overall architecture we are going to create for the order system in which we have these subsystems involved. So these are some points which we are going to cover in sequence. Like first we will see our user interface. I will show you how our user interface will look like. And next we are going to create our backend application using Node.js. First we will create a Node.js application. In that we will create one JSON file and add some order related data in that. Next we are going to implement CRUD operations, and next we are going to test our CRUD operations using Postman. This is about the backend application, all the points which we are going to cover on the backend side. On the front end side we are going to create our front end application. It's a standalone application, and we are going to create a table using Bootstrap, and we are going to implement CRUD functionalities, as well as we are going to implement filter and sorting functionality as well on the table data. And finally we will cross check all the end-to-end functionality using UI browser. So this is about all the points which we are going to cover in this video. So I will request you to please watch this from start to end, because we are going to cover a lot of functionality in this. So I will request you to please visit my channel Code for Tech Solutions, wherein like I have created number of full stack applications with the combination of React Spring Boot and React Node.js, and nowadays I am preparing the full stack using combination of Angular plus Spring Boot as well as Angular plus Node.js. So I will request you to please visit my channel, and therein you will find at least one full stack application which you are looking for. So please do visit and subscribe my channel. So without any further ado, so let us start our application. So before we start, let me show you our UI, how it look like this is the UI. our once we create our application and run it into the browser, it will look like this one. This is the header part, and this is the navbar which we are going to create using bootstrap, and this is the home link, and this is the add button, and this is the search filter through which we can search the data from the table. Like it is applicable to all the column data irrespective of the table column. This is for status. Fine. So the filter is working fine for the table data, and this is the header, order id, name, location, and status. These are the header of the columns, and these are the action buttons like edit and delete. And this is apart from this, we are also going to implement the sorting functionality on the table column. Like you can see, it is getting sorted in ascending and descending order as we click. Fine. And this is the order data which we are going to store into our order.json file, and that we are going to render on this home page. So with this add button, it will allow us to add, it will open one form, and in which it will allow to enter new order. Like let's say it's for one, we can add one atom, like let me take one entry. Okay, so here say iPhone 2, and location we can say it's Chennai, and here status we can say it's delivered, and submit. We can see the entry is added successfully as the last record. Now if you want to edit any entry, we can simply click on that. It will populate in the form, and here we can change it, like instead of iPhone we can change it to Inspiron, and here instead of Chennai we can change it to Mumbai, and status we can say it's ordered, not yet delivered, and we can update it. Fine. So update is working fine on click of edit button. Similar way, we can delete it by clicking on delete button. It will show the confirmation pop-up box. Once we click on OK button, the record will get deleted from the table. So this is about all the CRUD functionalities, including the searching and sorting on the table data. All these points we are going to cover in this video. So I will request you to please watch this from start to end, so that you will not miss anything in between. So let us start our coding part first. So let me open one VS Code instance. Let us delete the existing VS Code. Here we can write open our new instance. Now there is nothing, like it's empty. Now let us create one folder with name like it's related to the order. We can name it like order service. Now this is like we are going to create our order service using backend application, which for which we are going to use Node.js. Fine. We can go to order service, and here we can see one folder is created which is a blank. Now we can initialize it using command npminute -y. Now we can see one package.json is created. Now here we can install all the required things, like we can install Express, we require course, Nodman, and file system. All these things we require, so we can install this. So we can see the dependency, like course is added, Express is a backend framework for Node.js, and file system, through which by using this we are going to create one JSON file and write to that JSON and fetch the data from that JSON file using the APIs available in this file system library. And this is the Nodman, which will keep tracking the changes, so we do not need to rebuild our application. Now let us run our before we have just added all the dependencies. Now let us create our one file with names. First of all, we can create one JSON file. Let's say it's orders.json, inside which we can add some data. I have some data ready. I will copy this and add it into orders.json file. We can save it. Now here we can create one file with name server.json. Here we can add all the things, like we can import, we require express, next we require course, next we can define one app constant, next we can define one constant for port, or we can define some specific port. Now we can define one constant for orders, and here you can say it's required, and here this is the orders.json file. Now that our app should use, we need to add one more constant for course we have already added. Now we can use it. Let's say suppose next thing our app should use express.json. Fine. Now we can write one listen method which will listen to port, and this is error object, and we can log some message like server is running on port, and here we can pass this port, should be bracket. We can save it. Now we have created our backend server with name server.js file. Now we need to mention this file in our package.json. Here by default it is index.js. We can replace it with server.js, and here we need to add one start script here, and it's a node 1, and here is our file which is server.js, and complete it. Fine. Now let us run our application using command npm start to check. Yes, fine. Now we can see this is our port, and this is a message which is getting shown like our server is running on port 3000. That means our application is running fine. Now let us implement our API part, like CRUD APIs. Now we can call get method on this one, and here we can define some constant, like let's say first it's an API, it's a version v1, and here is our orders, and these are the request and response callback, and here we can return JSON response.json, and here we can add this orders. So this orders we are going to return as a part of our response for this gateway API. So similar way we can write one more get API which will take ID as well, and here we can extract the ID from, like we have request.params.id. From the request we are extracting the ID, and we have this ID constant. Now next thing, like we can call the we have this orders dot find method we can call, and here for atom we can render like atom dot id is equal to this id param, and then it should return the particular object which is of order, and this order we are going to return which is a individual order for this given id param. That's it. That means our get API will return a particular object for this passed id. Now let us implement our post API, which will allow to add some entries into our JSON file. Now here for post we do not require the id. So here we can retrieve the new id, and for that we have this orders dot for new id we can say it's orders, and inside that we can say orders dot length we can take first, and -1 we can take as a last element, and we can take the id on that, and we can add +1, so that here we have prepared the new id which has incremented by 1. First we have retrieved the last element from JSON and added +1. This is the new id. Now we need to assign it to into our request body. Now in our request body we have request.body.id which is 0 for now, or blank, whatever. Now we have deleted that id from our request body. Now we are going to create one new product, new order, and here we can create one object, and we can say it's assign, and here we can assign the id as an new id, and next we can append the request body to it. Fine. Now we have this new order which we need to push to our existing list. Now we can remove this, and here we can say it's an orders dot push, and here we can new order we can pass. Now we have this new order created with new object. Now we need to return it, this new list with added object, or we can say here is the push. Now we need to write it this object. Now we have this new list. Now we need to write it to our file, JSON file. So for that we can use this fs. Now here for this we need to create one constant like fs is equal to require. This is for file system. Now here we can use file system and write file, and what is our file name, which is like our file name is orders.json, and here we can use json.stringify, and here we can pass our orders. Next callback for relevant data, and here we can say if there is error we can return response.json, and this is the error, else we can return response.json, and this the orders which is a new order we have, or no need to send this, rather we can prepare one message like return response.json, and here we can prepare message like order is created successfully. You can say it's a new order is created successfully. That's it. We can save it. Now this is the post method. Similar way we can add one put method which will allow to update the order, and here we need to pass the ID as well. And first of all we need to extract the existing ID from request.params and convert it to number. Next, like this is the existing ID. Now we need to find the index for this existing ID. We can go to orders dot find. We can say find index, and here we can say atom, and here we can say atom dot id is equal to existing id or existing id. This is the variable. If that is the case, then return the actual index. Now here we can mention one constant which will hold the index. So this is the index for this existing ID. We can say it's an existing ID, and this is the existing ID. Now we got the index. Now we need to write to that, write to the same place. Now we have this orders dot. We can use this method, and inside this we can write our index at which we are going to write the request body, and can add request.body. Fine. Now next thing, like we can pass the products as is, and we can pass this orders, and here we can mention order is updated successfully. Fine. So what we have done, we have extracted the existing ID from the request params. Now next thing, we have found the index for this existing ID into the existing data, JSON data, and what we have done, at that index we have written the modified body of the object, and finally we have the new list with this modified object. Now we have passed this to write to file, JSON file, and finally this order is updated successfully. Fine. So we can save it similar way. Now we can create one delete method, and finally we can test all the APIs. Instead of put, we can say it's a delete. For delete we need ID, and existing ID we need. Now here we can say for delete, like we can take let's say filtered orders, and here we can filter, and filtering on atom, and where atom is not equal to existing atom. Pass this is the input atom. We can say it's an input ID, and for this input ID, if it is not matching, means we are simply excluding this ID and taking all the object, all the data which is not including this passed ID. That means we have deleted the record. And finally we are going to write this filtered this is not needed, and finally we can write this filtered object it here, so that it will get returned to the JSON file. And finally we can return the filtered orders object. Fine, seems good. Now we can save it. Now let us do one thing here. We can go to terminal. We have saved this. Now let us open our here. We can this is our 3000 port for the backend application. Now let us test our get API. Now we can see it is returning all the records which we have added into our JSON file, and this is the orders.json file inside which we have these many records, and same are getting displayed it here. Now let us check our post mapping. Here we can add some ID, and here it should return a particular object, not the list. Seems good. Our get by ID is working fine. Now let us do one thing. Here we can add one record. We can call the post mapping, and here we can add one entry. Let us take one entry. This much. Okay, so we can copy this iPhone entry. We can add it in this URL. We can copy. We are testing the post API which will allow to add the entry. Now here we can say it's iPhone 7, and instead of Paris we can say it's London, and it's delivered. Status as a delivered. You can send it. Now you can see new order is created successfully. If we go back into our JSON file and check, we can say iPhone 7 is created, it's London, and delivered, and its ID which is incremented by 1. So our post mapping is working fine. Now let us test for our put mapping, so that we can check if the record is getting updated. Here we can copy one record. We can copy this one, and for put mapping we need to pass the body as well as the ID. Now let's say here instead of iPhone 15, now if you call the get method it should show 7. This is iPhone 7 is for 104. We can copy it, and here this is the body, and ID put mapping we need to pass the ID as well. It here it's 104. Now here we can modify. Instead of iPhone we can say it's an Inspiron, and here instead of London we can say it's a Mumbai, and its status is ordered. Let us check now what will happen. Yes, we can see order is updated successfully. Now if we call the get method again, now it is showing the Inspiron, and these are the modified entries. That means our update is working fine. Similar way, let us test our delete API. So to delete API, we just need to call the delete method, and no need to pass the body. Only ID is enough. Now let us check. Okay, order.filter is not a function. Okay, fine. Now here there is spelling mistake. AFI lt should be there, seems good. Now let us call the delete method again and check. Now you can see the object is deleted, which is 104 is no more in the list. Fine. So delete is working fine. So with this, like, we have tested all the CRUD APIs which we have written on the Node.js backend server. Now let us do one thing. We can focus on the Angular part. We can create our front-end application. In that, we are going to use Angular 18 and implement all the CRUD operations along with search, filter, and sorting part. So we can use the same editor. Here we can create, this is the terminal, new terminal, and here we can create our Angular application using command ng new, and here we can name our application like its order and web, and we can use routing. And by default, as we are using the Angular 18 version, so by default it will create the standalone. So let me show you what version we are going to use. ng version, Angular 18, Node version 20.11.1, and npm version which is 10.5.0. so this is all latest versions. We are going to use Angular 18.3, all these fine. So if you are using the Angular 18, that means ng new and the application name will create standalone application by default, provided you should not pass the no standalone while creating the application. So now by default it is creating the standalone application, and we are adding the routing to that. Fine. Here we can choose the CSS option, and server side rendering we can choose no. Fine. Now installation is in progress. We will wait till it completes. Fine, it has completed. Now we can see this order-web client application is created. Now let us go to this folder order web, and here we can install the dependencies. Like, we are going to use bootstrap. Now we can install it using command npm install bootstrap. Next, to complete the bootstrap installation, so we need to add bootstrap javascript. So let us go to our angular.json, and here we can search for, this is the architect build, and we need to search for script array, inside which we can add this bootstrap javascript. One more thing we need to add, bootstrap css file inside this styles array, and we can save it. Now our bootstrap installation is complete. Now let us do one thing. Here now let us create the component which are required. First of all, we can generate one module, and we can name our module like its order, and it requires the routing. Fine. We can say it's y. Fine. We can see, if we go to src, this is the order module which is created. Now let us create one service inside this order, and we can name our service as an order. This is the order service. Now let us generate the component using command ng generate c, and here we can generate the component inside order. You can use this shortcut in ngc or component you can use. And here for component, first component we can create home, and here we can add standalone option, so it will create home inside order. Similar way we can create edit, and we can create one create component. Finally we can create one interface for inside this order, and the name of the interface is order itself. Okay, so fine. So what all things we have done, like we have first created our order module. Inside that we have created service. Inside that we have created three components like create, edit and home. Each component has its CSS file, its HTML file, its test file and the TS file. And you can see this create component is for creating the order, this edit component is for editing the order, and this home component is for showing the orders in a table, and we can show the table data on the home page. And this is the order.ts, which this is the interface, and here we can mention what all properties we are going to use. Now this is the id, name which is the string, and here let's say location which is again string, and finally we have status which is a string, and we can save it. Now here, as it is a Angular 18 standalone component, you can see it will not create app.module.ts, and instead of that this is the main.ts from which our Angular application will get bootstrapped, and it will use this app.config, in which we are going to add all the things, like we need to add our order service as well as the provider which we are going to use to call our HTTP methods. So we are going to use the HTTP client, provide HTTP client, it here we can pass. Fine. Now in order to call our application from like our fine, so this is about, so now our Angular port is running on 4200 and our backend application is running on port like 3000. Now we need to route our Angular request to our backend application to this URL. So for that to make that communication happen, we need to create one proxy file inside this src. We can name it like proxy.config.json, inside which we can write /API, and inside this we can add target, and for this target we can mention, so this is the URL we can copy. This is for target, and we can add secure as an false. So this is about the proxy config JSON, and if you are not using localhost as a host and other host than localhost, you can use like change origin, and here we can you can mention that other host if you are not using the localhost. Right now we are using the localhost. Now we can stick to this much. Fine. Now we have this proxy.config.json file. Now we need to go to anglo.json file, and here we can see the serve option. This is the serve option. Here we need to add one options, inside which we can add proxy config, and here we can mention the path of the file name which is inside src, and the name of the file is proxy.config.json, and we can save it. Now our client application URL will get routed to this backend application URL. Fine, we can save these changes. Now we can go to our app.component.ts. Inside this we have this import. Here what we can do, we can add all the things which we are going to use, like we are going to use router link, we are going to use reactive form module, and we have the order module, and we can save. So we have imported all these things, so that we are going to use that. Now let us focus on our service part now, wherein we are going to implement our HTTP methods. So let us go to order.service.ts. Now here we can create one private service object HTTP client, and here we can say it's an HTTP client. Now let us provide implementation for first it's a get all orders. You can say it's an observable, and it will have order type array, and here it will return this dot HTTP client dot, it will call get method, in which we need to pass the URL, and URL is this should be the URL, like till orders we can pass. Now we can copy this much, and we need to add this one. We can add the import for this order. Fine. Now here we can copy this much, and we can add one private base URL constant, and here we can store this URL into this variable. Now this URL we are already getting from this proxy.config.json, so this is there, so we do not need to add this again. And what we need to add, only base URL. This will get appended to our proxy config URL. This is our URL to which our base URL will get appended to. Fine, we can save it. Okay, here the return type should be order array. You can save it. So this is about to get all orders. Now similar way we can add get by ID, inside which we have this ID, which is a type of number, and this should return only order, and this is the base URL, and here So this is the base URL, and here we need to pass the ID as well. So here dollar is missing, we need to add. Fine. So this is about get by ID. Similar way we can add for post method. So this is like, we can say it's a create, and this is the data which is of type order, and here we can call post method, and here we do not need to pass ID, rather we need to pass data. That's it. Similar way we can create one update method. This is the update, and to update method we need to pass the ID as well, and we can say it's a data.id, and we need to pass the modified data to be updated into the JSON file. Finally we can implement our delete method, and here is our ID. For delete, ID is enough, and here we can call the delete method, and for delete method we do not need to pass the data, only ID is enough. And for update method we need to call put mapping, and for delete mapping, and we can save it. So we are done with our server implementation. Now let us keep our server means our application running. It's -o. Now our order service is ready with CRUD operations. Uh, now here this is the app.home app.component.html. So here we can remove this, and we need to go to our we are going to show the navbar on this one, so we can check. It's like bootstrap navbar we can search for, and we can click on this link, and we can take any form or navbar which we like. Now we are going to use this one. We can copy what all things we require and add into it. First of all, we can create one main div inside which we can add this navbar, and before this we can add one line break, and h3 header we can add, wherein we can mention this is the header, which is a full stack with Angular 18, Standalone, and Node.js. Fine. So we can save it. Yes, it is appearing. Now we can add some style, and we can add some color. Next thing, like we can center align it, text align as the center. Fine. And here we can add strong so that it will look bold. Fine. Now we can use this navbar dark, and instead of bg light we can use bg info. We can save it. Now this is appearing. Next thing, we can copy what all things we require, like we need this home link, so we can copy the home link, and here we can create one more div like container fruit, inside which we can add this home link. We can save, Next thing, like we need the search button, and we can copy it and edit it here. Now you can see this is the search button and this is the home link. Now we can remove this span which is not needed for us, and we can save this. Fine. Now let us add here, like this is home link. You can say navbar brand, and here we can add a button class. It's a primary. Fine. Here we can add some width which is like 100 pixel, and we can save it. Similar way we can add some width to this, and we can make it 850 pixel. Seems good. And instead of search we can use add and plus button. Fine. Now here we need to add our router outlet. Fine, save. Now we have added one navbar with home link and add button. Now let us go to our, this is the service wherein we have implemented all the HTTP methods. Now we need to render the data on the home page. So to render that data, first we need to capture all the data which is returned by this get orders. So we need to write it inside home component.ts. So first of all we need to add some routing for this one, like this is the path, and path is like order / home, and we can add component like home component. We can copy it, and if it is just order, we can redirect to, we can copy it, fine. Next, patch map, it's a full, so we can copy it. If it is a blank, then again redirect to the home page. So what we have done, like if it's a URL order / home, then it should it should show the home component. If it is just an order, it should redirect to the home page, and if it is a blank URL, then again it should redirect to the home page. That's it. We have added the routing part. Now let us go to our home.component.ts. Here we need to implement on init. Next thing, like we can define one variable like which is orders, and which is of type order array, and we can initialize it with empty array. Can add import, fine. We can add one constructor, and this is the order service. Next thing, we can provide ng on in it. Here we can call this service like order service dot get all orders, and we can subscribe, and here we can write callback, and we can say this dot orders. We can assign this data to this orders. Fine, we can save it. Now we have these orders, and these orders now we need to render into our home.component.html. So for this, like, we can create one container inside which we can create one table. Table has head we need to tr add td. Fine. Inside this td, now we can add header order id, and which has scope like call. Sorry, it should be header, not td. It should be th. Fine. And scope is a column. Similar way we can add 3 more. Its name, its an location, its status. We can add tbody, tr, tdata, and for this tr we can iterate a loop. Let's say let item of orders, and this orders is nothing but what we have captured it here. This is the orders, and we have this data in orders. Now we are going to render it at here. And how we can render it? Inside this bracket, you can say item.id. This is for first. Similar way, we can add it for name, location, status, and for this we can add scope, as a row. Now for this ng4 we need to add import into this component.ts, and here we can add common module so that we can access the ng4. This is the orders. Now it is showing the order headers. Now it is not showing the data. Okay, so let us do one thing here. We can remove this private. Fine. Now it is not showing. Let us check why it is not showing. Now here, so this is the common module we have added. So for home.component.ts, we need to add few more components like import, like reactive form module, next form module, order module, and router link. Can save it. Here we can add our bootstrap classes like table script, margin top we can add. So we can cross check why the data is not coming. So this is the base URL, API and orders. So let us rerun our application and check what will happen. So this is our base URL. Now we can go to order.module.ts, inside which we need to add, we need to add form module as well, and it's an reactive form module. Fine, we can save it. Now here inside our app.component.ts we have added these things. Fine. Home.ts we have added. So here this rerun our application and check. I think we need to first of all save all everything because something is missing, something we have not saved, due to which it is not showing. Is not valid JSON. Let us go to our oh, here is a spelling mistake. APPI. Yes. Now we need to save it. We can rebuild our application and check what will happen. Yes, we can see it is showing the data. Seems good. Now here let us add some CSS for this one. We can add some style width as an 580 pixel. Should be 850 pixel. After this we can add one BR. Next for table again, like we can add some border, we can add style. Fine. Next thing, like for this header, tr class, this is the tr. Can add class which is bg primary and we can save. Seems good. Now our table is ready and we have tested our get is working fine and our data is showing on the home page. Now next thing, like what we can do, like once we click on add button, it should show some form which will allow us to enter new order entries and add it into the JSON file. Fine. Now first of all we need to copy some form. To copy some form, again we need to take bootstrap forms. Here we can select one form. We have various forms. Now we can choose one form. Like for this we can copy which is matching to our requirement. So here so first of all we can add the add link on our app dot. Here we need to add router and router link, and here we can add order slash home. Sorry, it should be order slash create. Now let us check if we have a router existed for the create. So we do not have. Now let us add one. This is for create, and here we need to mention what component we are going to render, which is a create component. Fine, we can save it. Now we need to add comma. Now we have added the routing. Now once we click on add, it should show create works, and which is inside our create.component.html file. So here now let us go to navbar form, and we can copy it, and we can remove this and edit it here. Fine. So what we can do, like we can cut it, we can add one parent div inside which we can add this form and save it. Now you can see it is showing. So here we can add some margin top, next padding, and we can add width, let's say 850 pixel, let it be 830 pixel, and we can add some height as well. Plus we can add border 1 pixel solid, and we can save it. Seems good. Now we can add some background color as well to it. Seems good. Now we can change these headers, like ours is for its a name, and we can copy, type is a text, and here for ID we can add name, we can copy it, we can define one name attribute as well. Fine, we can save it. Now here this is not needed, we can remove this, and we can save it. Now name is appearing here, name, and enter name placeholder. Now we can copy this, and add for location, and we can copy this location here. We can save it. Fine. We can copy it. Now this is for status. Can remove this D. Okay. Next thing, we can add one line break it here, and we need to add one more button for cancel, and here type is a button for cancel, and it should be type as a danger, and here we can add some space. Seems good. Two is fine. Okay, now it is looking good. So this is the form header, name, location, and status. Now what we have done, once we click on add button, this should show some form wherein we can enter the values. Now whatever value we enter, that we need to capture in some bean. So here we can select like ng model, and here we can mention this is order.name. Now let us check if we have defined order inside our create component. So for create component, we need to mention one order. This is the blank, this is blank, and we can add import for this one. Fine. So we have this order which we are going to capture it here. Now inside this we need to import common module so that we can access ng module it here. Okay, so here it should be form module, not ng module, and we can save it. Yes, fine. Similar way we can add for location, and this is for status. You can save it. Now what will it will do, like once we enter anything, that will get captured into this bin order. Okay, now next thing, like we can create one create method which we can, so this is our, here we can say click method, this is the create method, and similar we can create one cancel method or cancel button. Now here we can create method, and here now for this here we need to add one constructor wherein, like first we can add our order service, next we can add router, which is again router, we can add import for this one. Fine. Now inside this create we can use this dot order service dot create method we can call, and we can use this dot order. So what happens, like whatever entry we enter in these inputs field, that will get captured into this order object. Now we are passing this order, and we can call subscribe, and here is next, and here we can say it's a router dot navigate method we can call, and we need to navigate to the home. It's order slash home page it should navigate to, and in case of error we can log the error. That's it, we can save it. Okay, so similar way we need to create one cancel button, cancel method, which will simply route to home page on click of cancel. Seems good. Now if we click on cancel button, it should go to home page. Fine. And now if we click add button, it should first call our create method, which is inside order.service. Here create method, and it should pass the inputted object to the data JSON file. Now let us add one entry. It's let's say so this one factory, and location you can say it's a Pune, and status is order. We can click on submit. We can see one entry is added successfully. That means it is working fine. Now our submit is working. Now we need to go for edit part. So to implement the edit functionality, first we need to add the action button set here. Now let us do that. This is our home component. Here we can add edit, and this is delete. Now here inside ed. We can add one button, and this button is for edit, and here we can mention one class btn as an primary. Similar way we can add one for delete, and as it is a delete we can say it's a danger class. Seems good, it is added as expected. Now let us add some click functionality on this. So once we click on edit button, so it should be router link we can call, and here we can say it's an order slash edit, and we need to pass item.id. Seems good. Now let us check if we have the mapping routing for this one. So we need to add it here. And here it is taking ID. And this component we are going to show as an edit component. Fine, we can save it. Fine. So here is now whenever we click on edit button, it should show the edit form. For that, now it is showing the edit works. So which is it here? Edit works. Now we can remove this, and we can copy the create component form as is and edit it here for edit part, and we can save it. Now here we need to define the methods, like here we can call update method and cancel, Now we need to go to edit component. We need to implement on init first. Next thing, like we can add one product, just this one. We can copy, edit it here. Next thing, we can use implement ng init, and here we can define one constant like id. Now first here we can call this dot. We need to first create one constructor, it here, inside which can use private order service. Order service is here. Next, private router, which is a router, and apart from this we need to add one route which is for activated route. Fine. We can fix the import. Fine. Seems good. Now here we can call the method like this dot order service, and here we can call the update method. Before update method, now first of all we need to get the id part. So what we can do, we can define one id, or you can say this dot route dot param map. On this param map we can subscribe, and here for all params we can define one constant for id, and here we can call params.get, and this is the id which we will get. Now here we can call some this dot get by id method, and here we can pass this id. That's it. Now we need to create this method to this, and for this is the id number. For this, like we can call this dot order service dot get by id, and here we can call the id, and here we can call subscribe. This dot order is equal to data. Now we need to add import for this order. Fine. So what it will do, like here whenever we load this component, then it will get the id from this params, and that id we can store it here, and with this, for this inputted id we will get the object by calling get by id method. Now this is the get by id method, and we can call the get by id on this order service, and we will get return the data, and that data we are assigning to this order. Now we need to call the now let us check by saving it how it works. So let us go to here, and here for now we can delete these methods. and we can save it. Okay, so here ng model. So in edit.component, here we need to import, inside import we need to add form module. You can save it. Seems good. Now we can see if we click on edit button, it is showing the form. Now here we can save it first, check what will happen. Fine. Now we can provide the implementation for cancel button so that we can cancel it whenever we want. And we can copy the cancel and let us check now what will happen. Okay, so for once we click the last record, it will show this one for this Surface Pro. Fine. So this ID is getting populated into this form, which is expected. Now let us create one update method. This is the update, and here we need data to be updated, which is of type order, and here we can call this dot order service dot update. We can pass this dot. So here for updation, like whatever data we will enter into the input boxes, that data will get captured into the order, and here we can pass that order object itself, this dot order, and we can subscribe call. Call this dot router navigate, we can call, and we can copy the link as is. Okay, you can save it. Fine. Now let us check how it works. Like this is one, we can click, and it's factory double one, we can append. Okay, we have not called this update button. Let us check on home HTML. Home HTML. Not on this one, edit HTML. We should go to, and here we can call the update method. On click of this, submit, and this is the update. That's it. And here we can say it's a edit, so we can, instead of submit, we can make it as an update. Now we can cancel it and do it again. Like we can add factory 11, it's Mumbai, and order we can keep as is. Okay, fine. So our update is working fine with this. Now next thing, like, we can implement our delete functionality, so let us do that. So for delete we do not need to create component, only we need to call here click, and this is the delete function, and we can pass item.id for deleting. Now we can create the delete method inside this home.ts. Order service, and we can call delete, and for delete we have input id, which is a number. We are passing the same id. Here we can call the subscribe, here is the data, and we can say this dot, we have orders, dot filter, and we can say item dot id not equal to the input id. That's it. With this, like, it will delete, it will take only those orders which is not matching to this given id. That means we have deleted the record. Fine, we can save it. Now let us check. Yes, seems good, it is working fine. Now delete is working. Now all the CRUD operations are working fine. Now let us add one filter for search functionality here. We can go to home page, and inside here we can add one input search, and here we can mention it's an filter, and placeholder we can add search order here. Fine. Now next thing what we can do, here whenever we enter anything like input, we need to call some function. It's like filter order, and for this we can pass filter dot value. So what is this filter? Is nothing but this is the filter, we need to pass it here. and now it is showing error because we have not created this filter order. So we can add one search filter right here, and this is the input which is of string. Now for filtering the data, what we can do here, we can create one filtered products. So let us do one thing. Here we have this order. Similar way we can create one more constant, and here we can name it like it's filtered orders. And for this filtered orders, here what we can do, here we have this dot orders dot, we can say filter it on basis of atom dot name, sorry, here atom dot name dot, we can say two lowercase we can call, and here we can mention dot includes, and here we can mention this input dot two lowercase. So this will filter on name. Now similar way we need to add similar way. Now let us check it. Here we can save it. Okay, here is a double colon quotes. Okay, fine. Now here this is for name, right? So we can add for, we can copy this, and here we can add or operator. Here we can add for location, in similar way we can add one more operator, add operator. This is for status. Now let us check if our filter is working. Now here what we can do, we can enter something. Let us first save it. Okay, so to show the filtered items, what we need to do, now we need to, instead of showing the atoms orders, we need to render loop into for filtered orders, because right now we are not showing only orders. What we want to show the filtered orders, and for this filtered orders in home.component.ts, here again we need to set like this dot filtered orders is equal to data. Initially the whole data will be set to the filtered orders. Now let us check if we filter on 1, seems good. Now for spectry, yes. Now xp, yes, and order delivered, yes, shipped. Okay, so the filter is working fine. Now last thing what we can do, we can go for our sorting logic. For that we can go to our table columns, and here we can add a click, and here we can mention sort by, and here we can pass, this is for id. Similar way we can add this is for name, this is for location, and this is for status. Sorry, here sort by, this is for status. Okay, now we need to create this sort by method. Now we can go to home.component.js, sit here, and we can create this method, and it's an input which is a string. Now let us say it's an value. Now for this, first of all, we can check, like we can define one variable like sort by, like let's say it's a sort property, and we can mention it's a string, and by default sort property is a name, and there is a sort order which is a number. Okay, so here we can mention this as an 1. Fine. Next thing, like here this is our sort, this dot sort order we can mention as an value to this dot sort property. If the property is already there, then like this dot sort order cross -1, or else we can say it's a 1. What this means, like if there is already sort property is there, if it is existed, means if we are clicking on name, then it will go for descending order because name is the default, or if we have something else, then it will go descending, or else it will go in ascending order. Fine. So this is the sort, and we have mentioned the sort property as a name by default. If there is a sort on name, then first it will go for the descending, and if it has other, then it will go in ascending. That's it. Now next thing, we can add here this dot sort property, which is value we can set, and here next thing, like we need to add filtered orders, like here you can say this dot orders dot sort function we can call, and for this, like we can say a variable any and b of any. Now here for this we can call, first we can define some result which is 0. Next we can say if a of value is less than b of value. In that case, return this is the result is equal to -1, and we can copy the if statement, and here if it is a of value is greater than b of value, then it should be 1, and finally we can return, which is a result cross this dot sort order. That's it. Now what we have done here, this is the deciding whether it should go in ascending or descending, and this is the property, sort property. This is the value, whatever input we have, that will get assigned to the sort property. Next thing, like we are actually sorting our list at here, and this is the filtered list, filtered orders, and this is the sorting logic, like you can see, and this is sorted orders. Now we need to show it. Okay, that's it. Now if we go back it here, now let us check what will happen. If we click on order, yes, name, it is getting sorted in ascending and descending order. Same for location and status. So with this, like we are done with all the operations and functions what we have discussed before we start this video. So what all things we have done, like we have implemented all the CRUD operations along with search, filter, as well as sorting functionality, and we are done with all the points which we have discussed before we start this video. I will request you to please like and subscribe the same. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you must have enjoyed this video. Please do like and subscribe.